Oh, hello there. I'm Bilchan.
I'm Nimikung.
I'm Banchan.
In this class, I'll read to all of you. Chapter 13, Section 1 of the picture of Dorian Gray.
As.
Ah.
The picture of Dorian Gray. Oscar Wilde. Chapter 13, Section 1. He passed out of the room and began the ascent. Basil Howard following close behind. They walked softly, as men do instinctively at night. The lamp cast fantastic shadows on the wall and staircase. A rising wind made some of the windows rattle. When they reached the top landing, Dorian set the lamp down on the floor and, taking out the key, turned it in the lock. You insist on knowing, Basil? He asked in a low voice. I am delighted, he answered, smiling. Then he added, somewhat harshly, you are the one man in the world who is entitled to know everything about. You had more to do with my life than you think. And, taking up the lamp, he opened the door and went in. A cold curve passed them, and the light shot up for a moment in a flame of murky orange. He shuddered. Shut the door behind you, he whispered, as he placed the lamp on the table. Howard glanced round him with a puzzled expression. The room looked as if it had not been lived in for years. A faded Flemish tapestry, a curtained picture, an old Italian cassone, and an almost empty bookcase, if that was all that it seemed to contain, besides a chair and a table. As Dorian Gray was lighting a half-burned candle that was standing on the mantel-shelf, he saw that the whole place was covered with dust and that the carpet was in holes. A mouse ran scuffling behind the wainscoting. There was a damp odour of mildew. So you think that it is only God who sees the soul? Basil? Draw that curtain back. The voice that spoke was cold and cruel. You are mad. Dorian. Or playing a part, muttered Howard. Browning. You what? Then I must do it myself, said the young man. And he tore the curtain from its rod and flung it on the ground. An exclamation of horror broke from the painter's lips as he saw in the dim light the hideous face on the canvas grinning at him. There was something in its expression that filled him with disgust and loathing. Good heavens! It was Dorian Gray's own face that he was looking at. The horror, whatever it was, had not yet entirely spoiled that marvellous beauty. There was still some gold in the thinning hair and some scarlet on the sensual mouth. The sodden eyes had kept something of the liveliness of their blue. The noble curves had not yet completely passed away from childhood nostrils and from plastic. Yes, it was Dorian himself. But who had done it? He seemed to recognise his own brushwork, and the frame was his own design. The idea was monstrous, yet he felt afraid. He seized the lighted candle and held it to the picture. In the left-hand corner was his own name, traced in on letters of bright vermilion. It was some foul parody, some infamous noble satire. He had never done that. Still, it was his own picture, He knew it, and he felt as if his blood had changed in a moment from fire to sluggish ice. His own picture. What did it mean? Why had it altered? He turned and looked at Dorian Gray with the eyes of a sick man. His mouth twitched, and his passion seemed unable to articulate. He passed his hand across his forehead. It was dank with clammy sweat. The young man was leaning against the mantel shelf, watching him with that strange expression that one sees on the faces of those who are absorbed in a play when some great artist is acting. There was neither real sorrow in it nor real joy. There was simply the passion of the spectator, with perhaps a flicker of triumph in his eyes. He had taken the fur out of his coat and was smelling it, or pretending to do so. "What does this mean?" cried Howard. At last, his own voice sounded shrill and curious in his ears. "Years ago, when I was a boy," said Dorian Gray, crushing the flower in his hand, "you met me, flattered me, and taught me to be vain of my good looks. One day you introduced me to a friend of yours, who explained to me the wonder of youth, and you finished a portrait of me that revealed to me the wonder of beauty, in a mad moment that, even now, I don't know whether I regret or not. I made a wish. I remember it. Oh, how well I remember it. Though the thing is impossible. The room is damp. Mildew has got into the canvas. The paints I used had some wretched mineral poison in them. Oh, what is impossible?" murmured the young man, going over to the window and leaning his forehead against the cold. "Miss Staincloth, I was wrong." "Can you see your ideal in it?" said Dorian bitterly. "My ideal. There was nothing evil in it. Nothing shameful. You were to me such an ideal as I shall never meet again. Christ, what a thing I must have worshipped. Each of us has heaven and hell in him." "Basil," cried Dorian with a wild gesture of despair. To be continued.